Angela, you have led a organization before.
Yeah.
Not only just an organization, a LGBTQI plus organization. What would you say was the most challenging part of that experience?
Um, yeah, I was the co-director and then executive director of an LGBTQ liberation group called GetEqual for 3 years. And it was one of the most like moments of like rapid growth and education that I had experienced in my life. Like I think about, there are periods of time where it feels like you're just getting a whole bunch. You're changing a lot, you're learning a lot, you're growing a lot all at one time. And then like sometimes in your life, you're just more of like a steady state. That was one of those like very, very high pace, very, very high intense times for me. And I think that it was all hard, to be honest with you. Like it was all also really great, but it was all really, really hard. I think the best parts were that it just felt like very like I was doing it for myself. The work that I was doing was work that I needed to see in the world. And it was pushing me to learn more. I think it was also a moment where I also had to confront my own internalized homophobia, transphobia, misogyny. Like even as a Black queer woman, doing work to advance, Black queer women, femme, non-binary, trans folks' experiences, I also have a lot of those isms, if you will, or the ideas that are kind of sourced into those isms is in me. And so it was a lot of like self-reflection, a lot of like, oh, wow, opportunities to being challenged to grow, not just in my like work and what I do, but also in how I see the world, how I see myself in the world, how I see gender, how I understand patriarchy, things like heteronormativity, which is, basically like, a relationship and a family structure of man, cis woman. Our normal is the dominant thing and everything else sort of circles around it. Or is anything that's different from that is not ideal. This like heteronormativity kind of stuff, it all just kind of got thrown in your face, got thrown in my face in a real way.
I love how you... this is also the moment where I'm like really trying to get our audience to start catching on to what happens onto this show. But I love how you didn't answer the question.
I knew it.
You're like,
the best part
that shit was like, it was words. But the best part is like, okay.
I mean, there were hard parts.
I feel you. I ask because I'm thinking, I mean, every organization has its challenges.
Yeah.
Every organization has its like weird boundaries that it needs to maneuver while also like, getting the work done, reaching the goals, building leadership, membership. So I'm thinking about it from, the standpoint of a organization that's embodying all of what it embodies. And I'm imagining that that's some challenging shit.
I mean, the one thing I will say that was pretty hard and also frustrating is that, GetEqual was at the, if you think about the political spectrum of like, LGBTQ organizations, we were pretty far to the left of what the like mainstream gay rights organizations were saying. Your, HRC's Human Rights Campaign, and it was just kind of like our worldview was so different, and the worldview that we were trying to push was so different than what the majority of like gay folks or lesbian people that were doing political work or doing social movement work. It was so different than what they were saying. And so it was kind of like I would be in these meetings, in these rooms with other like, national leaders of other national LGBTQ organizations, and be like, we would be talking about, things like marriage equality and the fight to these religious discrimination fights, which are really just used so that people can discriminate against LGBTQ people. And I'd be like, yeah, but also we should stop deporting and detaining queer and trans undocumented folks.
Right. And
like one of the times I got invited to the White House, and I'm pretty sure it's the reason why I have not been invited since, I did direct action with Genesette Gutierrez, a trans Latina woman who's so incredible, an amazing leader. And we basically, because I was the leader of this organization, I got invited to the White House for the Pride reception that year. The White House does a Pride thing every year.
Right.
And there was this was also the year that the Supreme Court passed down the ruling that made same-sex marriage legal, or that ended discrimination against same-sex marriages. And I invited Genesette as my guest, and we basically I don't know if I should go all the way into it because, yeah. Anyways, but we basically planned a moment where Genesette disrupted President Barack Obama in his speech, where he was like, being charming Obama and like, yeah. And everybody was super hyped because the marriage equality ruling had just come down. And in the middle of his speech, I'm like standing to the side of Genesette, like, I don't know, maybe like 20 feet away with my phone, like recording her. And in the middle of the speech, Genesette, all by herself, just Genesette is like, President Obama, stop detaining trans women, like trans undocumented women, like interrupts his speech. And
nice.
It was incredible. She did so amazing. And then people started like booing her and yelling at her. It was just such a manifestation. It was mostly, gay men in the room, mostly white folks, but also other people of color. But it was just such a good example of like, this woman is literally just asking you for like basic protections because of her identity that you all say that you're fighting for, that you all say is so important to you. And you're like booing her, yelling at her, pushing her out, pointing and laughing. It was just like, anyway, the moment went viral, it went crazy. And big shout out to Genesette and all of the work that she's continuing to do. And yeah, it was just one of those moments that totally embodied the disconnect between the work that, folks that are, queer and trans folks of color, non-binary folks that are fighting for a different version of the world sometimes than the people that we get bunched together with because we all kind of share this one identity.
I mean, you gotta be a loser to be invited to the White House Pride celebration and to at some point, any point, find yourself booing. It's a pride celebration, so
yeah.
Unless somebody's up there doing some pride shit, it's like, what are you doing booing?
But that's the thing is like some of them think that by challenging the Democratic president who is overseeing the overturning of these bans on same-sex marriage. Like, there are people that think that is the gay issue. Those are the LGBT issues. If we can if all we can do, if we can get married, if we don't get discriminated in our jobs, or if we can get a cake from whatever caterer we want, then we're good. And they don't see the experiences of undocumented queer and trans folks, of Black queer and trans folks, people who get killed by the police, people who get sexually assaulted by the police, people who get misgendered and placed in their wrong positioning because of their like they don't see that as the issue, because they don't see us as a part of them, even though, like, again, we share this same identity. It is definitely and I think I also, one of the things that was really rewarding is just being able to build deep relationships with, the folks that were organizing for Black liberation at the time, because we did have a shared strategy, right? Like, GetEqual was one of the few LGBTQ organizations that was really deep in solidarity with the movement for, citizenship, and for DACA, and for against police violence, for healthcare, like all of these different issues that it brought us to be in solidarity and community with people that may not be traditionally seen as like the community for LGBTQ people, but was because we saw our community and our set of issues as much more than just around who we're loving and how we express our gender. It opened us up for a lot more partnership and collaboration.
Speaking of opening us up, what up?
Oh, hey.
This is the N-Word podcast. Let me tell you all some real shit really quickly. We need you to like, comment, follow, subscribe, anything that basically amplifies this podcast. Share. Anything that amplifies this podcast, because it just helps us out. Not to mention something you may or may not know. The algorithms don't like us. It's not often that the algorithms are like, hey, pro-Black, anti-white supremacy podcast, we should amplify this up. It's often doing the exact opposite. And if you don't know, you should Google it. I'm sure you'll find a bunch of shit that tells you exactly what I'm saying, and it backs up everything. Anyway, it's Pride Month. Brrr. What up?
Wait, before we get going, more bigging up the gays and the theys and all of that.
Shout out the gays and the theys.
I also want to say +1 to the sharing and the liking. And also, we've gotten so much love.
Facts.
So much great feedback. It feels really great when y'all let us know what you think is working. It's also amazing when y'all let us know like what's not working and what we should do differently, or adjustments, like things that you want us to talk about, things you want us to dig more into. We love it. We want to hear it. And yeah, share if you like this episode, if you like a past episode, share it with your friend, share it with a homie, because it is a good conversation tool, right? If you're ever trying to figure out how to talk to somebody about, different issues, whether it's, sexual assault or accountability or just like white supremacy and how we're all navigating this shit on a daily basis.
Tune us in.
Yeah, send them a clip.
Or
we're here to help.
If you have a smart TV, while everybody's just vibing at the crib, you could just go on YouTube and search the podcast, the N-Word podcast, and we'll pop up. And, you could just play a couple episodes as background music. The vibes are great.
So back to Pride.
Shout out the gays. Shout out the days.
I one of the things I appreciated about you when we first met and got connected is that I didn't even think of you as like an ally, right? It almost was like there's like a step, what do they say? It's ally. No, I don't want you to be an ally. I want you to be an accomplice. I feel like you really embodied that, like in a very natural, like, even in moments where you're like, I'm not sure what the right word is. I'm not sure what the right letter is. I'm not sure if I'm showing up crazy right now. But it just felt very authentic to you, in a way that I hadn't really experienced, especially from a cis straight Black man before.
Word. That's cool that you feel that way. There's always work for me to do. However, I don't think I've really felt strongly on some like anti, what my awareness was back then would just be anti-gay nigga shit. It's never really anti.
That's why the algorithm hates us.
Totally. I've never actually been anti, LGBTQ or have ever had that, held a strong sense of that. I may have like shared pieces of identities or the culture that was like not like me not actually being aware of how it's actually fucking up or like, actually your behavior is showing up as anti-LGBTQ folks. So for me, I think, in entering movement work, in entering this space, I have always just kind of listened and soaked up opportunities to expand my awareness, which is why I'm like, there's always a lot for me to learn because there's always moments where I might not actually think I'm being anti, but I'm actually showing up anti, and I'm like, oh shit, I had no idea. I just, thought this thing was a thing.
I think that is, that is like one of the core, if there were like, I don't know, skills, right? Like in basketball, you like have to learn how to dribble, pass, whatever. If the white supremacy was a game, one of the skills is being able to like be okay with hearing like, oh, I thought I was on the wrong side of that moment, or like I was being fucked up even though I wasn't intending to be. Like being able to hear that, or even not even that you fucked up, but just that what you thought was true and like actually isn't true, and that there's actually a whole different, or there's a whole other set of truths that could also be true at the same time. Like that is very much a major key to the like unlearning white supremacy, because I feel like that was my experience even coming out, or I even say like coming into myself before. I feel like many queer people will identify with the reality that you have to come like in or out to yourself before you can like come out to the world or to your family or whatever. And the thing for me that was like, actually, this could be true and different, because I was having this moment, I don't know, I was in my early 20s, mid 20s, and I was having this moment where I was like, more and more, I was like, I think I'm attracted to this woman. I think I'm attracted to this girl. Like, what is happening here? Like, what does this really mean? And I was also feeling like really sad, because I felt like I was being pushed away. I was like being moved away from God, and I was in a very like, deep, wanted to have a close relationship with God. I was going to church, reading my Bible, all this stuff. And I felt like, how do I do this thing and feel this way while also being with God? How do I can't do both. And my cousin Celeste, who is so dear to me, I was talking to her one day, and she said something to the effect of like, you know, I was saying like, I don't know if I can show this part of myself to God. I don't know if I can be this part of, I can't be this and also be close to God. And she was like, maybe this is God showing you more of himself. Maybe this is God actually asking you, inviting you to like see him in a different way or see God in a different way. And like, there's more to God than what you actually have been told. And it was just like,
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think it's I don't know how to call this style of learning that I do, but sometimes if I'm in a room and like someone does or says some wild shit, that experience sets like a benchmark for me, and it's almost like a, not a benchmark, but like a, oh wow, someone actually is acting and behaving this way. That's
real in the world.
that in the real life world. That's wild to me. That experience often it makes me adjust my behavior. It almost makes me focus more. And when I hear people talk about their experiences with religion and how it like has tears them up because of experiences of you know, coming out or being queer or gay or any number of the alphabets, it's like, damn, that's such a cold ass experience.
Yeah, it does hurt.
That like, it forces me to look at my shit and be like, well, what's wrong with you and like any anti-LGBT shit you got going on. So like, for me, it's like, it's almost like, I don't know, it's like
Knowing that somebody has that experience or that type of energy would create that type of experience for somebody is like, oh, I don't want to do that.
no, it's almost like hearing about those experiences. I mean, even in your experience that you just told, which I've never heard you articulate before, it humanizes you in a way that's like, oh fuck, and then like it almost gives me more reason to fight. And to fight, it's like, well, let me check myself and the shit I got going on. Okay, let me figure out how to check my homies and they shit, because it's like, this is like a human ass experience that's just like, I don't know, it's pretty deep and like,
yeah, that's beautiful,
emotionally driven.
Yeah.
Also, you know, it makes me think about some of the experiences I've had, like being around trans people. And just like remembering those moments and like kind of like checking myself for like, well, what are these feelings that are coming up for you? And are you feeling this way because like you've never been here before? Are you feeling this way because you feel like somebody's asking you to do some shit you're not comfortable with? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
What are you going through right now?
Like, yeah, like some real shit. Like, what are you going through? And, you know, just pushing myself to be like, oh, I'm like tripping right now. And like, I'm actually having like a triggered reaction that like white supremacy or like some anti-toxic shit that's not actually me or who I want to be. It's pushing me and causing me to have this reaction that's like kind of me having like a weird anxiety attack that now either A, makes me be a weirdo, or B, like do some toxic shit out into the world. And, you know, the community's like, yo, what the fuck's wrong with this guy?
Well, it's like, but yeah, because also there's an insecurity, right? Because there's a lack of sureness, or you're not sure how you fit in this context or in this world, especially in a world that tells you that straight maleness is the norm, right? Relationships that look like cis, not, you're born with you're born with a gender and that's how you are. Like going into a world where you're like, and then being confronted with something that's not that, it does put you in a place of like, for some people, fight or flight, for some people, like, the fight is like, do I fight this a different, truth, or do I fight to understand something differently, or do I like run away? There's other options.
Yeah, and I think for me, it helped me kind of what you're saying, which is like my experience as well, which is like just helping me identify what my masculinity is, and help me be comfortable with that. Help me know that like my masculinity isn't on no performative shit. Like I am who I am, and there's no behavior that I can do. There's like nothing I can do, or nobody has the power to change who I am, what I fuck with, what I like, and there's a security that I develop within my own masculinity, because I also understand that like out here in this world of like identifying masculinity, it is a fucking loss. Like it's a battle royal. Like it's like a fucking, I don't even know what the official WWE wrestling ring measurement is, but it's like a 12 by 12.
Like not Superdome, but what do they call like the cage match?
The cage
thing?
match. No, it's not even a cage match. Low key, it could be a cage match, but it's like a 12 by 12 box. It's a ton of motherfucking niggas and all their identities, and everybody's trying to identify like what is masculinity, and like it's all this weird mind fuck that is all performative, and it's all like not even healthy.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, oh, okay, let me get the fuck out of this battle royal, because I don't need to be tossing niggas out the ring. I don't need to be doing all this. Let me identify what my shit is, go on my own journey.
Yeah.
And find the words, identify it, be secure about that shit, and then go out in the world and be me.
Yeah.
So that's why I really fuck with, one, this idea of like, how do I show up as an ally, or not as an ally, as a
accomplice.
But then also like, what is there for me to learn? Because I need to learn, and that's what's most important for me, is like, having some type of navigation system out here in this world, and not being like these weirdos on these other podcasts who like can't even articulate themselves without saying some toxic shit.
Yeah.
Or like doing some masculine performative shit that's like also not even serving you in a healthy way, but also tearing down communities at the same time.
Well, but like you're also performing a version, or they're also performing a version of masculinity that somebody else is also performing. You know what I mean? Like it's all like play acting in a particular way, instead of actually just like being yourself. Like we all have elements of feminine and masculine in us. Like we all have that. It's a spectrum. It's a range. And I think that like to try to like perform a version that is so hyper, that one thing that is also that hyper version of masculinity also tends to be a very violent, toxic version of masculinity. It's just like you don't see how you're play acting. You don't see how you don't actually know yourself. You only know the version of yourself that that somebody reflected to you, and now you're reflecting back to them.
Yeah, and the irony of all of this is like, it's essentially this conversation around you know, as you know, masculinity basically having this toxic relationship with itself that then attacks other people's relationships and identities with themselves. But like, there's this, it's this irony in this conversation where we're talking about this on Pride, for Pride Month. Did you know it is also Black Male Mental Health Awareness Month? Which just generally feels
I'm sorry to laugh.
It just feels like somebody's trolling.
I'm laughing because when you said it, I recalled like people like memeing like how people were like, oh, they made Pride Month and like Black Males Mental Health Month. Like, don't you see what they're doing? Like trying to tear down the black man. Like
that shit. So I just want to make it clear. I don't believe in that. However, I do think that shit is funny as fuck.
Oh man!
Like the intersection between like conspiracy theory and like coincidence.
Right.
That shit is funny, but I do think it's also, you know, shout out to Dr. Denard. I live in the deep. You know, there's some deep, depthful shit for you to actually learn. In investigating, you know, your own, you know, feelings or reactions or responses to LGBTQ community culture, you know, as a black man, you know, I'm sure we're probably going to lose some followers, you know, some subscribers just off of the fact that we're talking about pride and black queer shit, but you know, peace.
I mean, this is a queer ass show. So
queer ass show.
Just to be clear.
Shout out the gays. Shout out the days.
Okay.
It's just exciting.
It is exciting, but I will say, like, you know, I think that I like the point that you just made of just check in about what's coming up for you. Like before you run off with a feeling or an emotion or a reaction, just be like, hey, what's going on in there? Because it's probably a reaction to something that's different or new or that you've been socialized to experience as against you somehow.
Oh, speaking of reactions, socializing, and things that are against me.
Yeah.
The White House and Billy Porter.
Very much against us.
Oh, my God.
That was one. Okay.
I don't even know. Man, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this in the world of, you know, politically correctness.
As an accomplice.
But as an accomplice,
right.
Yes. But I'm just going to dive head first. Man, Billy Porter looked horrible.
I think that's sort of I don't know if that's
I feel like after years of me saying, this nigga looks great.
True. To be fair.
Like, yo, this nigga is killing motherfuckers. Like, this nigga looks awesome.
Multiple things can be true because.
That's true. You could look great.
People can have some bad looks, right? We've all been there. But also, Billy Porter walks the line. You know,
Word.
he's. But here's the. I struggle with secondhand embarrassment. I think you know this.
Yes, absolutely.
I cannot watch videos, people embarrassing themselves. I literally I think
I watched the whole 10-minute video version.
No.
I wish it was I can't stop looking at this.
There was the clip of Biden seemingly lost, and then there was the Billy Porter. I don't even know if I watched 15 seconds of that because
So you might have missed.
It makes me feel like I'm gonna die. Like it makes me feel like I'm not gonna make it.
Did you? So that means you might have missed the hand kissing.
No, there were pictures. I saw the hand kiss. I want to.
When he kissed Biden's hand, it was like, okay, this is and cut scene.
End it. I want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, right?
Fuck that.
Because I'm like, okay, you know, Maybe Billy was like kissing his hand on some like elder shit, you know, like
No,
he's an
nigga.
elder.
You supposed to know to not do that to any hand that looks as pale as that.
Oh
That
my
nigga's hand
Lord! Like
do
what?
that to the black, grandmother,
And then there was
grandfather.
like somebody put the picture like that picture next to a picture of it, the slave kissing Abraham Lincoln's hand.
Oh no!
I was just like, what are we
I didn't see
doing? Oh, so
man.
bad. But this is also back to the going to the White House thing. Like, we really just have to interrogate, like, what is all this for? Who is it for? Because for people who maybe didn't see it, the White House did a Juneteenth celebration. They do these things every month, for all of the holidays. They do for Pride. I don't know if the Pride event has happened yet. Maybe it's happening soon. It's just like, celebrities go, people in DC go, and, there's a concert, whatever. I just think we really have to, and I've been to, full disclosure, I've been to a White House Christmas party, one that I did not interrupt, one that I just ate the snacks and drank the champagne. And then I went to the one with Genesette.
Was there McDonald's?
There was not McDonald's.
Okay.
No, this was not the Trump White House. The stuff is actually very beautiful. It's nice to experience and see. But then I went to the one with Genesette and we shut it down. And so like I get the desire to have different things like celebrated and commemorated at the White House and by the government. But then you create the opportunity for moments like that where you're literally bowing down. Bowing down to this white man president.
Shame on you, Billy.
Whose legacy is not great for black people, not great for gay people, not great for people who are not him, it's I think, like I said, I get the desire, but also come on, and especially,
hold the line
or have some context. Billy Porter is supposed to be portraying James Baldwin of all people in a biopic, and he's at the White House bowing down and kissing this man's ring.
Yeah,
crazy.
Someone might need to snatch that role from him. Like, that's horrible that Billy Porter is playing James Baldwin. James Baldwin is such a fire revolutionary, someone who I look up to and feel like, I'm still digging in the crates to like really learn more about James Baldwin. So for Billy Porter to be playing that character is kind of terrible. I'm really hoping that somebody is like pulls the plug. Is he writing it too?
I'm not sure.
I feel like there's like not a director,
he's in the higher ups,
director, producer, writer arena. So
might not be able to pull the plug.
That brings me so much sadness.
I think also James Baldwin is dope because he so much of his writing and his work is really relevant right now in the context of these conversations about empire and colonial, like the structural stuff. Like James Baldwin is always gonna point you in the direction of like
the roots.
Yeah, like this is bigger than just that one situation, right?
And he'd be sitting there in a room full of white people smoking his cigarette, just going in, dragging niggas. That shit used to just be... Watching those videos, like, it's hilarious to me while also being hella informative and educational.
These moments, though, right, where people like Billy Porter are at the White House, having these celebrations and also these conversations on behalf of the community are also a problem, especially in the years like 2024 and election years in general, where inevitably they're looking to play black voters. They're looking to play not all of us really, but especially black voters because of how powerful we are as a voting bloc to show up in a way that is not actually accountable to what we need and what we say and what they say that we need, right? So Biden goes to the Morehouse College to do the commencement speech, even though he's also actively supporting a genocide. And then, Donald Trump goes to a church in Detroit and, fills it up with people who don't live there and puts random black faces on stage to make it appear like he has this big black base. It's like, again, back to the performative nature of many of this stuff. It's like, what is actually the conversation that we're having about being accountable to what black voters actually need? Everybody's saying a whole bunch of shit. Everybody's inviting these random celebrities like 50 Cent to Congress or to the White House as if they actually are, one, bringing people out to vote, but then also showing up to hear what people actually say that they need. Because it's one thing to be like, oh, the black community, I'm a black person, I'm a leader in the black community needs X, Y, and Z things. It's another thing to be in a room full of black people in a community that are like, nah, actually, this is what we're dealing with. This is what we actually want you to say, and then actually have to try to convey that. Those are two very, very different things. That these so-called leaders that get brought to the White House, especially these celebrity leaders, are not actually doing. They don't have that context.
It's actually terrible that Biden got invited to Morehouse as like a institution for higher learning that's supposed to represent, black male leadership. It's just like, what the fuck are you all doing? Again, very like performative, very like, I think this is the right thing to do, and not actually standing on anything that's like of substance or value, or like standing on something that doesn't actually harm communities or other communities outside of what you think is going on. And it's like, literally, Biden now gets to walk away and call himself a Morehouse man.
Ugh, gross, yuck, wow.
Like, sit with that.
Ooh.
I'm also happy that I'm saying this as I got my FAMU hockey jersey on. Granted, FAMU isn't always, holding things down with, but we be out here. We be holding it down too, a little half and half. You know what I'm saying? We are the most lit HBCU out there. So let me just
can't wait for the comments on that one.
Let me just emphasize that point. Shout out the Rattlers.
Shout out the Rattlers.
But on some real shit, like to invite Biden out to, your campus to give him whatever degree or whatever the case they gave him, like the fact that he gets to walk away and call himself a Morehouse man, the fact that he is literally a Morehouse man is crazy, is insane to me. And it's just a wasted opportunity to show young black men leadership. And I was doing some research yesterday on the decision to overturn Roe versus Wade. There was these videos of like people protesting, and it was this school of doctors or nurses. I can't remember which one. I think it was a school of doctors, and like basically the woman that was giving the like commencement speech was anti-abortion and just had all of these like right-wing conservative ideas, and literally in the middle of the graduation speech that she's giving, all of these students just get up and leave and turn their backs, and like that is a show of leadership. That is a show of like, granted it had to come at the hands of students, and that institution also essentially did some stupid shit by inviting that type of person to give a commencement speech on their campus. But it's just like, Morehouse, what are y'all doing?
Right. And also, like, it's not just about like they're not living their values, you know, like the integrity and like you said, leadership, like all of these things that they're literally telling these students
Right.
that they're about, and like trying to infuse and socialize into these students, they're doing the opposite. And then to have like, because when the announcement came out that Biden was going to come and do the commencement speech at Morehouse, folks, students were upset. This is right on the heels of the height of so many of those campus protests that we were all like watching and hearing about on the news, where folks were in encampments to try to, get their universities to divest from Israel and from the occupation. And the students at Morehouse, when the announcement came out, were rightfully upset. Many of the students were so upset. They had a meeting with their president. And, I watched this video where this one student was like, "Do you think what's happening is a genocide? Like, do you think what's happening is genocide?" And the president was like, "I'm not going to answer that question," which is like, okay, so then
You literally look like a clown as you think you're just not going to answer the question. Like, you
what
look
type
stupid,
of
bro.
faith do you think these students are supposed to continue to have in you and in the institution that you're telling them to revere, to respect, to like show up for, to be their best selves for, if you're not even willing to be honest? And like that's to me is the thing. Like when I think about the election and a lot of these different institutions, this like political moment that we're in, I get that the threat of a second Trump presidency is disastrous. The idea of that is beyond terrible. Anybody that is telling you that Trump getting reelected will be anything but worst case scenario has their head up their ass. They are drinking the white supremacy soup and completely ignoring all of the facts, all of the truths, every single word that Trump says, right? And it is disingenuous. It is a lie. It is playing in our faces to say that voting for Joe Biden is the best thing for Black people, for our people, for all people. Like, that's just not true. Like, it's like, yes, we have a two-party system. Yes, we will, at least at the top of the ticket, and there's more to be said about what else is at stake on the election 2024 if you're not interested in dealing with what is at the top of the ticket, the presidential election. But if we're just talking about the top of the ticket, we have two choices. One of them is Trump. One of them is Biden. But I just feel like people need to stop acting as if these are not two really, really bad choices.
Yeah.
For people who care about freedom and liberation.
Yeah, and I think it's I love the way I love and hate this election cycle. I love the way it is now forcing people to be clear about their language. Their language around the elections and how they're talking about it.
Yeah.
And how they're either doing endorsements or,
Yes.
supporting. For example, Charlemagne the God, he basically talked about not endorsing either candidate, but like he talked about not endorsing either candidate, but he's also gonna tell you who you shouldn't vote for. or who's I forget how exactly he worded it, but like basically who's the bad character, if you will.
Yeah.
The person who we would, be fucked with. Which I thought was just an interesting, but also
the person that we would be fucked with.
Yes.
Okay.
Like who, like
not
again,
who we should fuck with.
No. I appreciate the clarity. Essentially, the person who we shouldn't be voting for.
Right.
So he's not gonna tell you who to vote for, but he's gonna tell you who we shouldn't vote for.
Yeah.
And to me, if as a celebrity, someone with multiple platforms, connections to other platforms and industries, so on and so forth, hip hop, blah, blah, blah. It makes sense to me. I thought that was a smart move for him.
Yeah.
Versus doing what you're saying, which is like telling me that Biden is a good candidate to do, which is like, that's just a lie. You're lying to me.
That's not true.
Which I think is interesting because it forces us to like, all right, well then let's have a real fucking conversation about elections, and also let's use this as a template moving forward
to have a conversation about elections.
So like, and then how are we holding multiple truths? Because like, it sounds like people are avoiding this opportunity to name this multiple truth of Biden is a shitty ass candidate, and there's no way in hell that we can allow Trump to be president.
Simple as that.
And,
it is as simple as that.
To me, I think the hard thing is that the hard thing that makes it that doesn't make it simple is that there are people that can hear that and be like, eye roll, fuck, whatever. Got the message loud and clear. See you on election day. Mm-hmm. Then there are other people that are like, no, fuck that. Mm-hmm. Like, you're still telling me to go vote for Biden, or I need you to tell me that that's what you're saying, or this doesn't feel good.
Yeah. I think
that's a whole container that.
Totally. And I think that's a righteous feeling to have. Like, I'm from Southeast Michigan. I grew up in Dearborn, and there's no way. I grew up hanging out in Dearborn. To be clear, I'm not from Dearborn. But there's no way that I would go into that community of Arab, Muslim people, many Palestinian people, and say that's why you have to vote for Biden because Trump is the worst. No.
Word.
That's okay if it is okay if there is a reality that's not where that's not a lever that you can pull. Yeah. And I think that is another thing that so many folks in the political class are missing right now, because there's going to be a day after November 5th. Mm-hmm. There's going to be many days after November 5th. And no matter who's elected, fascism, authoritarianism, the white Christian nationalism is here. It is dominating in a way that those of us that the alternatives have not been prepared for. No. So those of us that are not on the Christian nationalism, white nationalist agenda need to figure out how to come together in some way, shape, or form. And that's going to mean some of us who are like, vote blue no matter who. And some of us that are like, I will never vote for Joe Biden ever. There's no way in hell that I can do it.
Totally.
We have got to be able to be like, look, this is where I'm at. I see where you're at. We'll figure it out on the other side. It does not mean that we can't cancel each other out.
We got to make space for people that are like, fuck this vote.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to sit this one out.
Yeah.
Because, those folks, especially in this election, are often coming to that conversation with some solid, substantive ass receipts.
Very much so. And Biden just keeps swiping the card.
Biden is
making those receipts, man. Damn, all of so many of the Democrats are doing this.
The accounting team is literally like, my nigga, You swiped for what? No.
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 But I think that's important to say, if you're sitting this one out, cool. I'm not going to be the person that's going to be like, our ancestors fought for it. Because, yeah, they did. But that doesn't mean that I'm, if the option is drink bleach or drink Windex, like, my nigga, I'm not doing either.
Yeah. I think also, like, it's okay to opt out of the top of the ticket if that is where you need to do.
Word.
And there's more, right? I think it's something like 30, 32, 34 Senate seats that are up in the U.S. Senate.
No idea.
30-ish, which is huge right now. The Democrats control the Senate, and that has meant that a lot of bad shit that is coming out of the House of Representatives has not gotten far because the Democrats control the Senate. They need to be doing more, which obviously, but that's that. So those 30-ish seats matter. All 435 seats in the House of Representatives are up. They're up every 2 years. Your House of Representative, you can vote them in or out this year. And I don't actually know the math right now on what seats, like what the number is. I know that the Republicans have like 1 seat majority, but I don't know what the projections are of who will control what. But
we'll get the projections.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like, we can still have an impact on what's happened, down to like your local judges, the people who set the rates for your water, the sheriff, the school board, the people who are talking about ban this book, ban this teacher, don't have rainbow flags or do have rainbow flags. Like, all of that stuff is still up on the election. So you want to sit out, can't check the box for Joe Biden. I get it. I feel you. Cool. There's lots of other stuff to do. And I think that is also something that those of us that are like Genocide Joe, F the Dems, whatever, like, we also need to be saying yes, and there's more to do on November 5th and after.
There's definitely things to do, other than voting at the top of the ticket, president or not. So I would also say that a couple of things. Mm-hmm. When it comes to elections, I always back up and listen to the experts. I'm, whether it's an election campaign, whatever the fuck, I'm always like, whoever are the leaders in the room, listen to that motherfucker and just, have my perspective, but listen to those people. Because it's just not my confident arena, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But when I learned the, like, Supreme Court justices and, like, the power that they have and the power that a president has, it's like the power that a president has to appoint a Supreme Court justice, and then for that person to be able to sit there until they essentially die. That's the crazy. So, like, to me, there are so many things that, again, when getting politicized, in my experience, that, like, I'm like, wait, what the fuck are we talking about? And I'm like, wait, why aren't you all yelling about this? Like, why isn't this front page news? Like, why isn't everybody getting text messages, alerts about, like, the power that a president has in appointing a Supreme Court justice, and then the power that a Supreme Court justice has? That shit is crazy to me. Mm-hmm. And when I think about this election, mm-hmm. So there's a couple of things for me that I'm like, okay, fuck, I might have to put the gloves on. It's that, the Supreme Court justice shit, and like not wanting someone like Trump to be able to appoint a Supreme Court justice. It's like, fuck it, I'd rather this idiot Joe Biden to do it because, again, it's a numbers game. It's an odds game. We're gambling right now. So for me, that's a very like, whoa, what? No, we can't allow this person that thinks this way to be able to appoint somebody that has so much power, and not just so much power that can last
lifetimes, generations,
a literal lifetime. Like,
yep.
Think about saying, "Oh yeah, you got a lifetime contract on this shit." Like, there's only so many roles where you can get a lifetime contract.
Yeah, somebody is like, you're hired for the rest of your life.
For the rest of your life. All right, go do a great job. That shit is crazy to me. And that shit is definitely one of the reasons why I'm like, okay, damn. This might be something that I have to, throw hands on. Because the other thing is that, like, I'll never forget the days leading up to January 6th and the insurrection. Because literally, so backstory, the South ended up getting a couple of opportunities to work on campaigns that were essentially election defense campaigns. Angela ran one of them in its entirety. And basically, the information that was coming from those conversations, it was always like, in my mind, like, nigga, y'all niggas is wild, and that shit.
They're not gonna do this
y'all
shit.
Y'all niggas ain't gonna fucking run it. Like, y'all niggas ain't gonna be running up, kidnapping motherfuckers and doing this and doing like.
Because that was the intel. The intel was like,
the intel was legit.
They might pop off, but not. I will say though, not in the way that it did actually happen.
But like, still, the intel was like, just like, nah, that okay. I'm just gonna sit here doing this campaign, make sure this shit fly, make sure everybody looks dope. Whoop de whoop, bam bam.
As we do,
do my role. Let me again keep my politics and organize my shit.
Here's some fly shit, y'all. Be safe.
Be safe. Hold it down. I love y'all. But then to experience January 6th, it was like, this shit is actually happening. And not only it's actually happening, white supremacy is allowing this to happen.
Jaws on the floor. Like,
white supremacy is literally like, because it's like this awkward duality of like white supremacy against white supremacy. And what I mean by that is
the different poles of white supremacy going at each other.
So you literally have these crazy, white extremist, white supremacy, Jews will not replace us type extremists. And then you have
white Christian nationalists.
Mm-hmm. And then you have like the government and like Republicans and like,
and Democrats.
And just like, they're literally clashing at each other while black folks are on the side like,
what?
This shit is happening.
The other thing is that, right, like, we were watching it from our home, right, in South Florida, but like having lived and organized and worked in DC for many years,
already knew that shit.
Having planned marches, having planned, rallies, actions or whatever. I'm like, ain't no way they get that close to the steps without help.
Yeah.
There's
like, y'all called people, like, folks knew the assignment on that day. And they let it happen. That's why literally I'm like, white supremacy was bugging that.
White supremacy against its force. It's like the multiverse, or what is like the other side, like in the superhero world, there's like Superman and then Bizarro, yes. It's white supremacy and Bizarro white supremacy going at it.
Actually hilarious.
We need to design something off of that idea.
But like,
because that's what it was. It was like the white supremacy that's like institutional and like, we will cast our ballots and we will hold the system in place because this is real. And then the other side of white supremacy is like, we're tearing it down and we're the deciders of what's really white and what's really real and what's really legal.
Someone literally died.
Yeah.
Like that.
People have been disabled at because of that event.
And to me, that is, again, there's a couple of nuggets that I'm just like, okay, maybe I gotta throw hands in this election, but
that's real.
That's
very
definitely
real.
one of them. That's like, well, if they can do that and then get Trump back into the White House,
what are we talking about?
That level of organizing is crazy. Mm-hmm. That's like a flex on flex.
That's a power grab.
That's like going to the club, wilding the fuck out, getting kicked out and dragged by security, and then showing up the next weekend buying out the club, ready to buy a fucking table, and they're like, yeah, come on in. It's like, I'm gonna be in here wilding out. Like, yo, I was in here wilding out before. What do you think I'm gonna do tonight? But like, that to me is like definitely a very like, oh no, we can't let these fools organize themselves on that level, or at the very least see that level of symbolism. Yeah. To then
take it to the whole nother level.
Take their organizing to a whole nother level of like, God knows what the fuck that can look like.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely, this is one of many conversations we will have about the election, about how we hold multiple truths, and also do it in a way that builds power. Because what you're talking about just now is like, that's that inside outside strategy that so many movement people talk about. Like, they're able to hold power on the inside and influence the policies and the systems and the processes and shut shit down on the outside without consequences. While our people get felonies, they get locked up, they get their lives ruined for fighting to stop a genocide or for fighting to protect a forest.
People pass laws that make protesting
illegal,
and direct actions illegal.
Come on now. But they get to get pardoned. They get a lesser sentence. They get, you know what I mean? So it's really, this is a, you know, it's more than chess, but it is certainly about playing a long game. And we're gonna, you know, keep digging into it. Also keep being honest with y'all, because we don't have the answers. Like, I am literally like, I don't know. If every day I'm like, okay, yeah, I think I might have to vote for Biden, and then I see something, I hear something, there's another couple of $1 billion for bombs, I'm like, nah, can't do it, fam. You're out here wilding continuously. So I just say that to say, like, we get it, I get it. We're here struggling with it with y'all together. You know, we gonna make it.
Is it? Sorry, this is just, I'm struggling with this in this moment. It's like, don't we want? So yes. Let me give a backstory, because if I just say what I want to say right now, maybe it's gonna sound wild as fuck. So I used to work at a nursing home. I spent about 4 to 5 years working at a nursing home. That sounds about right. And you know, I feel like elders, seniors, I have a sensitivity and appreciation for them. I care about them. So when I see Joe Biden, I'm like, this is hard work. Why are we why does it seem like
why does nobody want grandpa to chill?
To just chill.
Why didn't we think this ahead?
Why is this okay?
Why are we okay with this?
Why are we saying two-peat? Like, run it back. No, fam, like,
give this man a break.
And on some, like, I'm not even trying to, like, you know, shame seniors or any of that. Like, you know, again, very knowledgeable people that can pass down so much experience and gems that I'm always here for and available for. But bro, I look at Joe Biden and I'm like, I'm tired just looking at you. Or like, are you okay? That's why I was watching that Billy Porter thing for like 10, 12 minutes. There's a long clip where they just sit on Joe Biden.
I'm telling you,
there's like very long clip. I think it's like 10 or 12 minutes, but I'm literally just watching the whole time. I'm just like, he needs to sit down.
Yeah. Why are we forcing him to stand up? That's terrible.
I'm not sure if he even
I don't
knows
even
where
want to
he's
stand up. I'm
at.
sure I would want to stand up that whole time.
Yeah, this election is about to be hard as fuck and challenging as fuck. But shout out Haiti, shout out Palestine, shout out all my niggas, shout out the theys, the gays.
Yeah. Shout out to the family. Happy Pride, y'all. Lots of love to all of the LGBTQ folks, especially the Black trans women who have taught me so much, that have pushed me to grow, that are out here on the front lines, holding us all down, holding us accountable. Lots of love. Have fun. Be safe.
Be safe, hold
Love
it
y'all.
down. Peace and love to the Black Male Mental Health Awareness Committee and crew.
Go to therapy.
Go to therapy. Peace. Brrr.